My name is Norman. I've been attending Glenwood since 1977. I was asked to join the Glenwood leadership team in 1983, so it's a long time ago now. As some of you may be aware, Caroline and I have been quite unwell with the Covid-19 virus. Back in March, about the 17th of March, I began to feel a bit unwell. I thought it was problems with my asthma. I started with adult onset asthma 5.5 years ago, and I had a sore throat and a headache, but didn't think too much of it, and just took just some paracetamol and doubled up on my preventive inhaler. And then a few days later, the cough started getting a bit worse. And then the following weekend, Caroline by then had developed a severe fever, and a couple of days after that I also developed an extreme fever, which was quite traumatic. It lasted about 2 days. It felt as if I was being almost gripped by some external force and the life shaken out of me. It was a terrible experience. And then after that, I developed this horrendous cough, which lasted the best part of 3 and a bit weeks. I called it my pestilential cough. It was just awful. I just couldn't stop coughing. I had to sit bolt upright. I didn't get any sleep, or hardly any sleep, for about 3 weeks because I was having to sit upright in the living room. I couldn't even lean backwards without setting off the cough, so it was pretty grim, and hardly ate for the best part of a few days when the cough started, and poor Caroline, she was also feeling quite unwell. She was just recovering herself, so the pair of us were really struggling, and it was a difficult time. But thankfully, here we are quite a few weeks later. I'm now sleeping back in my bed, I'm glad to say, which was a huge relief. That was the start of the healing process, just to be able to sleep back in bed normally, start to eat normally again. So here I am, well on the road to recovery. I have to say and put on record my huge indebtedness and gratitude to my long-suffering wife Caroline, who's been absolutely amazing. Has been incredibly supportive despite being ill herself and struggling to recover. I owe her a huge debt, and I'm going to invest in a very, very big medal for her. It's going to have to be at least 9 carat gold, so I'm going to have to start saving, but she deserves it.
Hello, I'm Caroline. I'm married to Norman. We've been married now for I don't even want to say how long. We've been married 48 years nearly. I got the virus quite early on, just shortly after lockdown, and my symptoms were sudden shivering one evening and just totally unable to get warm, and went to bed in some despair, and then spent the next 2 days having quite a high fever and just sweating, and it was just awful. Completely debilitating, and I think it was 2 or 3 days later I finally sort of tottered onto the sofa in the living room just for a change of scene, and felt very weak, and then poor Norman started his fever, and then when he started coughing, if I tell you that it was the loudest cough I have ever heard in my entire life, that gives you some indication of what it was like. It was deafening, and you couldn't go anywhere to escape it. I thought I was going to go round the bend. So whilst I felt very sorry for him, I also felt like getting earplugs for me. But it was a dark time. However, I have to say that we had some very, very good support from dear friends. We had lots of cards from people who we didn't even know knew we were ill, and that was so comforting. Another dear friend was emailing me morning and evening to ask how Norman was getting on. Did he have a good night's sleep? How was he today? And that was just such a comfort to know that there was someone who really loved us and cared for us. We had other friends who were phoning, other friends who were texting, and also our house group. We'd formed a WhatsApp group for the house group, and every morning, once I felt a little better, I was posting some verses, mostly from Psalms. We'd been studying the Psalms in the house group, and I was posting verses from different Psalms each day, and people would comment on those, and it was amazing how apt everything seemed to be. It was as though God had put those particular verses on our hearts for that day, and people would sometimes refer to them later in the day and said, that particular verse really helped me through a very difficult time today, and I was meditating on it all day afterwards, and it really, really helped. And so I feel that God's word is so valid to us, even though those Psalms were written so long ago. They were just such a source of strength. And I think the one that our house group found really resonated with them. I think it's Psalm 103 that we take that chorus from, Bless the Lord, O my soul. And we've found that to be a real source of inspiration to us as a group. So that's been our experience, my experience of God working through such a difficult time. And it's been a real source of strength.